You're saying you don't think Republicans care about black people?
Oh yeah, they hate them. They hate them. They love using them as a cudgel.
What would you say to black Republicans?
That they're dumb. They're like the Jewish Nazis that existed back in the day. They're like gay Republicans. They're like trans.
You think Ben Carson, the doctor, is dumb?
Yeah. If you've ever seen the movie Django, you have your house, let's call them slaves. You have your house slaves and you got your field slaves. And they pit the two groups against each other. It's very simple.
Oh my God. He just referred to black people as slaves.
Brought you to the Bernie Sanders rally today.
Let's go for an easy one. The 9-0, the Trump ignoring the 9-0 Supreme Court ruling. Basically, he doesn't really believe in the courts or democracy. So, Bernie Sanders does. And so I want to bring democracy back. I could go on for hours, but keep it simple. And there's an easy one there.
Who do you think is the current leader of the Democratic Party?
Nobody. Chuck Schumer is nominally in charge, but everyone kind of hates him. That's it.
Who do you want to see as the leader?
Bernie Sanders, AOC, and anyone of their ilk. Yeah.
Who would you like to see run in 2028?
At this point, there is no real frontrunner. Bernie Sanders would be the best. However, I don't know if he's up for it. Next best would be AOC. However, someone should emerge in between then and now, hopefully.
Why do you think the Democrats lost last November?
Oh, because they take bribes from the billionaires. They, just like the Republicans, take bribes from the billionaires.
That's not why they lost. And AOC will probably not be the leader of the Democratic Party anytime too soon, nor will Bernie Sanders. And if you guys don't know, I actually like them. I like their spirit. They're pretty interesting. They like to fight. They're feisty. I like that. I don't know. I like it. But the reason they won't be leaders is actually the reason why the Democrats lost this previous election, is because although they're feisty, although, you know, they're the socialist dream, they're a little out of touch. A lot of out of touch. Meaning that the things that they're trying to stand on, at least prior to Trump's second term, most Americans didn't care about. Let's be honest. That's why Trump won this previous election. The things that they were trying to fight for, majority of Americans just didn't even consider to be important. And what I'm really meaning by this, what I'm really getting at, is that their beliefs are seen as extremely radically liberal. And because of that, they probably will not win the majority of people, especially considering politics is extremely polarized today. So if you have someone who's seen as a radical liberal being the leader of the Democratic Party, people will just naturally sway away from them. I would say their leader has to be someone who is a little more centrist, or who is at least seen as more centrist, at least for the time being. But let me know what you guys think. My name is LFR Jojo. Let's get into this video.
However, the Republicans are suckers and they believe what the billionaires say, whereas the Democratic voters, you know, are stupid, but they have just enough brain cells to know that they're being deceived, and so they didn't show up. And that's why the Republicans constantly are very energized. They believe their billionaires' lies, whereas the Democrats are constantly very low energy because they know their billionaires are lying to them. Bernie Sanders doesn't take bribes from any of the billionaires, so we know he's actually not blatantly lying to our face.
What messaging would you suggest the Democrats go with to be more compelling to voter bases?
They need a simple tagline, and the tagline is, dead serious, tax the rich. That's all they need. And anyone who opposes that line, guess what? They're a tool. Everyone knows the billionaires pays less than the average person. They always take the money and they store it away in other countries. And they just take the money that they save from their tax breaks and use it to bribe politicians. A simple tax raise of tax the rich, put it on hats, put it on shirts, put it on billboards would be record-breaking. Tax the rich. Say it.
Where does the rich begin at?
Oh, you can go on that forever. Let's keep it simple for now. The billionaires. Also foreigners who have more than 500 million. Let's keep it simple.
So, billionaires, not millionaires.
Everyone in the United States worth 1 billion. Let's start there and then we'll work our way down.
How?
Keep it simple, you know.
What tax rate?
We should do the progressive tax rate where your tax rate increases for every, I think it's $20,000 as you go higher. So the first $20,000 you get nothing. The second $20,000 you get higher. The third $20,000 you get higher, and so on and so on and so on. We used to do this in the 1950s. In the 1950s, we had the golden era. We need to go back to the 50s. That's the second catchphrase. Tax phrase number one.
I 100% disagree. 100% disagree. He brought up the 1950s. We used to do this tax era in the 1950s, and this was the golden era financially. Let me ask you a question. Was the wealth distribution in the United States the same today as it was in the 1950s? Obviously not. So if you're going up 20% as you increase in income levels, it's not even the same percentage of income shared as it was during that generation that you're bringing up. So why in the world would we do this today? Why would you do this? You would ironically be hurting the middle class. Ironically, you would be hurting the middle class even more. Because if you don't know, middle class citizens already pay a lot in taxes. So you are just going to take this a lot and make it into a super lot in taxes. Why are you doing this? And this is what I mean. The people that he want to lead the party, this is the people who follow them, and these are the ideals that they get from AOC and Bernie Sanders. And I like their fighting spirit. I like the intensity that they bring. However, this is an insane idea. This is not going to work. This will hurt more people than it will help. And it will still, ironically, raise taxes for the majority of Americans.
Tax the rich. Tax rates number 2, back to the 50s. Bring our tax rates back to the 50s. We know it works. We know it works, and we know it works against fascism because it literally was a tax rate we used to kill the Nazis and to start our fight against the Stalinists.
Do you think the Democrats went too far with the woke ideology?
No, they didn't really care about it. They just used it performatively. Hillary Clinton went up. Hillary Clinton was against gay marriage until it was convenient for her. It's very similar to how Disney uses, fights racism. They do it when it's convenient. When it's not convenient, it's gone. The primary goals for the corporate Democrats is getting tax breaks for the rich so they can receive more donations for them. People like Bernie Sanders, who don't take bribes, they actually care about minorities. They care about black people, blah, blah, blah. They don't want race riots because race riots come when minorities know they're getting...
You're saying you don't think Republicans care about black people?
Oh, yeah, they hate them. They hate them. They love using them as a cudgel.
What would you say to black Republicans?
That they're dumb. They're like the Jewish Nazis that existed back in the day. They're like gay Republicans. They're like trans...
Do you think Ben Carson, the doctor, is dumb?
Yeah. If you've ever seen the movie Django, you have your house, let's call them slaves. You have your house slaves, and you got your field slaves. And they pit the two groups against each other. It's very simple.
Oh my God. He just referred to black people as slaves. And he got caught in it. He tried to say that the black Republicans are the house slaves. Does that mean the field slaves are the black Democrats? Because you brought it up. You said, yeah, remember when they had the house slaves and the field slaves? And he thought about it. He was going to finish this statement and say, yeah, the black Republicans are the house slaves and the field slaves are the black Democrats. Here's the problem with this statement. And here's the reason. And I'm just going to keep referring back to why Trump won this election, because I don't want to get too deep into, what side is right, if you're Republican or if you're a Democrat. I'm going to just be honest. The reason Trump won this election is because of people like you. You're trying to equate blackness, or basically being a minority, to being a Democrat. And black people were like, no, this is not going to work for us. And Americans in general were like, no, this is not going to work for us. My race has nothing to do with how I'm going to vote. And this is why he lost. And he just still doesn't get it. To this day, he still doesn't understand this. You're trying to shame black people to voting Democrat, and it's just not going to happen. Throughout this video, he brought up one policy. The policy being raising my taxes. How is that? What is that going to do? Why would you? That's the one policy he brought up. Whatever. You want to raise taxes. Okay, that's what you stand on. The next thing he said was that black Republicans are just stupid and that they're house slaves. Jesus.
Or rather, the conservative party in the South has been using the fear of black people to suppress white people since before slavery existed. And they do it to this day. Obviously, back in the day, it was the Democrats because they were the Southern racists, and then the party flipped in the 80s, blah, blah, blah.
What do you think about biological men competing in women's sports?
I don't give a fuck. How many biological men are competing in sports? I think it's 20? Literally 20. This is an example. This is an example of culture war and conservatives using the house slaves versus the field slaves.
And we're standing here with the millionaires and the billionaires and all the fascists and the oligarchs, and they're ruining this country. Well, I'm standing here with...
Alexis Claiborne.
And you were telling me you're running for Congress.
Yes, I'm running for California District 23 in the 2026 midterm elections.
Okay, and what county is that?
Mostly San Bernardino County. It covers parts of LA County and parts of Kern County as well.
What brought you out here to the Bernie Sanders rally today?
Honestly, it just feels really, really inspiring to be around so many people that have the same values and want the same change that I do.
Who do you think is the current leader of the Democratic Party?
I think AOC. I think she should be, at least.
Would you like to see her run for president in 2028?
I would love to see her run for president in 2028.
What do you think is the best policy AOC has had passed?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Why do you think the Democrats couldn't win last November?
I think that there is a lot of division within the Democratic Party, and I think oftentimes Democratic leaders move away from the far left ideologies and policies to try to meet people in the middle rather than staying true to their base and staying true to what the people want.
What messaging would you offer the Democrats to be more compelling to more voter bases?
Find your spine and stand up to the fascism that is taking over our country and our democracy right now.
Do you think woke is dead?
I don't think it's dead, no.
Where do you think it goes from here?
I think that from here, as a Democratic Party, we can lean into this and we can uplift the wokeness, right? And talk about the pathway to all of these policies and things that most of us here and in this state and in this country actually want to see, and kind of move away from these identity politics that we're seeing.
Now, you live in California, as do I. Gavin Newsom recently said on a podcast with Charlie Kirk that the transgender debate in sports was like an issue of fairness. How do you feel about biological men competing in women's sports?
I personally would ask anybody that is asking about trans women in sports, ask them to name 6 female athletes, because nobody gave a shit about, sorry.
You can say whatever you want. We're fully uncensored.
Okay. Nobody gave a shit about female athletes or women's sports until the transgender issues started coming to the forefront of it.
But you yourself, how do you feel about it despite asking anyone else?
I myself feel that it's 12 people that people are super upset about, and I don't think that we should be upset about that. I think that we have bigger fish to fry, and that we should be focusing on closing these tax loopholes for corporations and making sure that the ultra-rich and corporations are paying their fair share rather than these identity politics.
So you're saying trans women should be allowed to compete in sports?
Yes.
If you had to give Trump credit for one good thing that he's done, what would that be?
Honestly, I do not like Trump, right? I think that he paved the way for people like me to get into office because he's not a politician, and that's what the people wanted, and that was clear in the 2024 election. And I think that that paves the way for people like myself to enact change in our federal.
First thing I will say is Donald Trump is by definition a politician because he's in politics. He's a politician. He knows how to be a politician. He's been president as of today twice. Donald Trump is not a traditional politician, meaning that he didn't go to law school and get a JD and he didn't work in different branches of government. However, a lot of people in Congress also did not go to law school. And Donald Trump is not the first president who didn't go to law school to become a president. So he didn't do that. The next thing is she was a little off track. The reason why the Democrats lost is not because they are swaying too far away from being radical liberals. That's not why they lost. They lost because they're not swaying far enough from being radical liberals. They need to be more centrist. That's why they lost. The reason Trump won politically is because he just appealed to more people. It's really that simple. He didn't ignore people. He spoke more online. Most people believed him. They believed that he would be a better fit because he was just voicing, he was just saying things about their concerns more than the Democratic Party was, up until a point that it was too late. It's really that simple. And then an example of this is a gentleman interviewing you. He asked you this question. I want to highlight it. The question he asked you was, do you think trans women should play in sports? Meaning that should they play in women's sports? The reason he asked you this is because he's obviously a conservative. But the reason he asked you this is because he was trying to gauge how radical leftist you are. And the way you answered that, it just hinted to him that you are a radical leftist. This kind of shows that to him, you are not even aware of the mistakes that you're making as a leftist if you want to win the presidency or you want to win Congress next time. These beliefs that you refuse to sway away from, it's hurting you. It's really hurting you. And the majority of people do not agree with you. But nonetheless, I'm going to end the video here. Let me know what you guys think about it. My name is LFR Jojo, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.